What are you doing here?
Yes, learn from your brother who is giving us $2,500 a month.
Huh? That's me.
Oh, so you're lying to take credit for your brother's achievements? I can't believe it.
You're not a family member. I'm cutting ties with you.
I understand. These parents are no longer important to me. I will cut ties with them. They should realize what will happen when the allowance stops. My name is Mia. I am a 38-year-old company owner. The company was small at first, but now it has grown to have more than 20 employees. Since it is still a developing company, I want to expand its scale while cooperating with my employees in the future. They always say things like this.
Please confirm. There is a meeting at 4 p.m. The president of our business partner is calling.
I lead a hectic life like this, but I feel very fulfilled by my work. However, I could never have imagined being in the situation I am in now when I was younger. My family environment was not very good. It wasn't because we were poor or anything like that. But I had to drop out of high school and was then forced to leave home. The reason I had to leave home was because of my younger brother. My brother Michael was always smart from a young age and was called a genius by those around him. Seeing his high level of ability, my parents doted on him. They spent all their time on him. They made him take swimming, piano, cram school, and anything else they could think of. And my brother did well in everything. As a result, my parents' favoritism towards their son became even more intense.
Michael is really amazing.
He's our pride and joy. Let's go out for a fancy steak dinner with the three of us to celebrate.
Yay. Steak.
Mia, you stay home.
It's a waste to have steak with a failure like you.
My parents always called me a failure. It's not that I couldn't study, but my academic ability wasn't particularly high. I was slightly above average. However, my parents, who saw my brother's success, compared me to him and called me a failure. Their attitude towards me after that was terrible. First of all, they felt that everything about me was a waste. I couldn't get new clothes, and I had to wear hand-me-downs from my cousins. On the other hand, my brother always got new clothes, and he was taken shopping. He was always treated to delicious lunches and sweets, and he even got toys. When I heard that story, I was really shocked. Why did my parents have to distinguish so much between me and my brother? I was doing my best too. My parents seemed to have no interest in me. So they told me that I must only apply to public high schools with low tuition fees, and if I want to go to a private high school, I should work instead of going to high school. I never thought they would say something like that, so I studied hard and passed the entrance exam for a public high school. I thought it was good that I could finally become a high school student, but an incident occurred when I was a second-year high school student. It all started when my brother said he wanted to go to a private high school. In the area where I live, there was a public high school with the highest academic ability. But my brother said there was a private high school he wanted to attend more than that one. That school also had a high academic level, so my parents agreed. However, my parents, who had invested a lot of money in my brother, wanted to save money for his university education. At that time, I became the sacrifice.
Michael's future is more important than yours. So you should quit high school and work.
I couldn't believe my ears. I don't want to quit school. I have a lot of friends, and I want to go to college too.
Don't be selfish. We don't have money to spend on failures like you. Instead, repay us for raising you.
Don't take it for granted that you have food to eat every day.
My father and mother ordered me to drop out of school by force. I couldn't resist, so I had no choice but to quit high school. And so, I ended up getting a part-time job. While everyone was at school, I worked at a fast food restaurant and earned money. However, most of that salary was collected by my parents and became money for my brother's future tuition. Even though I was earning and giving them money, my parents didn't change their attitude towards me. I was very sad every day when I saw my brother having fun conversations with them in front of me. Moreover, one day I learned a surprising fact. It was when I was heading to work in the morning and passed by a neighbor, so I greeted them. Then they gave me a stern look and said this.
You shouldn't trouble your parents so much. Dropping out of high school and working part-time to play around, isn't that a misfortune for your parents? Michael is so splendid, but what are you doing to ruin your family's reputation?
I was so shocked that I couldn't move from that spot for a while. I never thought that the neighbor thought of me that way, and I thought it was definitely because of my mother. I had seen my mother bragging about my brother to the neighbors. She probably explained me like that at that time. They made my problem their own, even though they made me drop out of school for their convenience. According to the neighbor, my parents were worried about how to deal with me. They treated me like a nuisance, but they didn't even know how to deal with me. At that time, I didn't want to stay at home anymore. I'm leaving this house.
What are you talking about?
I can't admit that you live alone. We don't have that kind of money.
I'll live alone with my own earnings. I'll transfer the $350 I've been paying out of my salary every month until Michael goes to college, so I don't want to stay in this house anymore. When I said that, my parents finally allowed me to leave.
Haha, we don't really want to see your face either.
That's right. As long as Michael is here, there's no problem. We don't need an ungrateful and useless daughter.
My parents kept saying terrible things until the end. But I got permission, so I'll take it as a good thing. I immediately rented a room and moved out. I had no money at all, so I worked part-time jobs to earn a living. When I became an adult, I started working at a hostess bar on weekends to earn more money. That's when I started to put on makeup properly. I didn't even have money to buy cosmetics until then. But here, I had to put on makeup properly to look beautiful. I asked other cast members for cheap cosmetics, and I worked hard to get them with a small budget. Then I did my own research and came up with makeup that would make me look cuter. Whether it was effective or not, I gradually started to get more and more popular and my income increased. I quit one of my part-time jobs and increased my work at the hostess bar. Since I had worked in customer service before, there was no problem with honorifics and so on. The longer I worked, the more my income increased, and I was able to save money. Then I had a certain desire. That was to go to college. As a high school student, I couldn't earn tuition fees by myself. But now that I was a working adult and my income had increased, I thought I could go to college. From then on, I started studying for the entrance exam in my free time. And a year later, I was able to pass the university entrance exam. I enrolled in a university with a school of pharmacy. The reason I chose that university was because I wanted to develop cosmetics in the future. When I was working at the hostess bar, I became very interested in cosmetics because I did a lot of research on makeup. After that, I spent 4 years going to college while working at the hostess bar to pay for my living expenses. After graduating from college, I was able to get a job at a cosmetics company. I felt like I was getting closer to my dream step by step and was able to spend a very fulfilling time. After I started working, I worked hard every day. Since it was something I was interested in, I was able to gain new knowledge every day, and it was a lot of fun. I became more and more absorbed in the world of cosmetics and achieved results in my work. Then I started to think that I wanted to make my own cosmetics and sell them. From there, I started raising funds for my startup. I worked hard every day with my dream as my driving force. There was a time when I thought I would cut down on food expenses and only eat mung beans. And then, a few years ago, I started my own company. It was my first time running a business, and I was too scared to know what would happen, but my curiosity won out. From then on, I developed cosmetics while doing my own sales. My steady efforts bore fruit, and I gradually gained more contracts. I think I was able to build up trust and credibility by carefully completing each job in front of me. At the time of the company's establishment, there was hardly any profit, but now that sales have increased considerably, I am surprised to be able to earn an income that is quite surprising even to myself. When I was thinking of continuing to work hard like this, I received a call from an unknown number. Who could it be? I had a bad feeling, but maybe it was a new business partner. I thought it would be a problem if it was a business partner, so I answered the phone. Hello?
Hey, it's been a while, Mia.
Wait, is this Michael?
You got it.
What's up all of a sudden? I was surprised when my brother called me. The last time I talked to him was when I left home. It's been over 10 years since then. I wonder why he called me now.
I saw you in a business magazine. I was reading it casually and saw a face that looked familiar and was surprised.
I thought. Uh-oh. I did receive an offer for a magazine interview. But I thought my parents wouldn't read it anyway, so I thought it would be okay to accept the interview. But my brother read the article at that time and found out that I was running a company. So what's up? You didn't call me just to report that you saw me in a magazine, did you?
Wow, you're sharp. Actually, I want you to send money to Mom and Dad.
Huh? Send money? Why me? I had a falling out with my parents. I've been treated pretty badly, so there's no reason for me to send them money. I don't want to send money.
Don't say that. Actually.
Huh? Dad got laid off?
Yeah, it seems like they're having a hard time making ends meet, and Mom always looks sad since she got sick.
Huh? Really? I was quite shaken. Even though I've been treated so badly, they're still my parents. I'm worried that my family is going through a tough time.
Are you willing to send money?
Well, if it's just a little bit, I can help.
Great, then I'll give it to them. I'm asking for a monthly allowance of $2,500.
$2,500? That's a bit too much.
No, when Mom was sick, she had to have surgery and hospitalization, which cost a lot of money. And then Dad got laid off, so it's been tough.
I see. I ended up accepting my brother's request and transferring $2,500 as he told me to. Even though they treated me so badly, I couldn't help but feel that I wanted to take care of my parents because they're still my parents. I wanted to help if I could improve the current difficult situation. So I sent money to my parents. It was not a cheap amount, but I was able to live as usual while sending $2,500 a month because I was running a company and had a high income. After that, I sent money to the account my brother told me to while busy with work every day. I still didn't have the courage to meet my parents. But it had been about 3 months since I started sending money, so I thought it would be nice if they contacted me soon. Maybe the fact that my parents are receiving money from me is hard to accept for them who have always denied me. They might not want to admit that they are in a situation where they need help. I spent restless days with various emotions crossing my mind. Then I thought I had no choice but to talk to my parents directly. I wanted to meet them after a long time and hear what they were thinking now. But my brother stopped me when I told him that.
Well, Mom and Dad are feeling down now. So I think meeting them might be a little too stimulating.
Really? But I'm sending money every month.
Yeah, but there are a lot of things going on with Mom and Dad. So please wait a little longer to meet them.
My brother told me not to meet my parents like that. And he didn't tell me where my parents were at all. The place where my parents used to live was a rental apartment, but it seemed that they no longer lived there after more than 10 years. My brother still wouldn't let me meet my parents. I thought it would be faster to look for them myself. So I asked a detective agency to find out where they were. My parents were living in a certain apartment. It was a high-rent apartment. Are they really in financial trouble? When I pressed the intercom, I heard my mother's voice. It was the first time I had heard my mother's voice in a long time.
Who are you?
I wondered if she didn't recognize me after more than 10 years. It's me, Mia. It's been a while, Mom. When I said that, my mother fell silent. Hello? Are you there, Mom? I was worried that the intercom had been cut off. Then my mother said in a cold voice,
What are you here for? We don't have any money.
She seemed to have some kind of misunderstanding, so I told her that I just wanted to see how they were doing. Anyway, I had the entrance door of the apartment opened and then headed to the room where my parents lived. When I pressed the doorbell, my mother opened the door and greeted me. And there was my father. Hey, it's been a while. My father and mother didn't look much different, but they looked their age.
What did you come here for?
My parents glared at me with their arms crossed. Hey, don't be so wary. Michael told me that you guys were in a tough situation.
Michael?
Yeah, he said that you were laid off and that Mom had surgery.
It was tough.
But we were saved by Michael. You haven't done anything. So why did you suddenly come here now?
Huh? I haven't done anything?
That's right. What are you doing here?
You should learn from your brother who sends $2,500 a month.
I didn't understand. Huh? That's me though. I mean, I'm the one who sends $2,500
Are you trying
a
to
month.
take credit for your brother's achievements by lying? I can't believe it.
You're not family. I'm cutting ties with you.
My parents didn't believe anything I said. But since I had transferred the money to my brother's account and he had given it to them directly, they probably didn't believe that it was from me. It was cruel of them to insult me like that and say that they would cut ties with me. I had been sending them money for the past few months to help them.
Your existence has been a nuisance since the beginning.
Yes. We only needed Michael.
Got it. I don't care anymore. I'll cut ties with these parents myself. They should realize what will happen when the money stops. I went home immediately. And I decided not to send them money anymore. The next day, my brother called me, but I ignored him. He would probably just insult me too. I won't send him money anymore, and there's nothing to talk about. I blocked my brother's calls and returned to my daily life. I have a lot of work to do because it's very busy. It was already the next month before I knew it. Then I received a call from an unknown number. I thought it was a prank call, but it kept calling me, so I answered it fearfully. Huh? Is that you, Mom?
Yes. It's been a long time.
What's wrong? Why is Mom calling me?
Don't say it like that. We're parent and child, aren't we?
Weren't we supposed to cut ties?
I don't want to. That was, a joke.
I see. They can't make ends meet because I stopped sending them money. And when they urged my brother, he probably told them that I was sending them money.
If you were sending us money, you should have told us from the beginning.
I did explain it like that, but you didn't believe me.
But at that time, Michael said he was sending us money. Besides, Michael was living with us and paying part of the rent for that room.
I see. You were living together. It seems that my brother also benefited from my money.
It's your father. I can't believe Mia is running a company. You're my proud daughter.
My father tried to flatter me. This is a complete turnaround. Last month, you said that you only needed Michael.
Well,
I don't want to be manipulated by you anymore, so I'll tell you clearly. I won't have anything to do with you anymore. I'll cut ties with you and Michael. If you appear in front of me again, I'll call the police without mercy. Don't show your face to me again.
wait a minute.
That's right. We can't live without your money.
I've been sending you money for about 6 months, so you should have some savings.
No. When we moved to a new place, we bought expensive furniture and appliances, so all the money's gone every month.
I see. Then sell the furniture and pay the rent. Anyway, I won't have anything to do with you anymore. Bye.
Oh, wait.
I said that and hung up the phone and immediately blocked their calls. According to what I heard from relatives, my parents and brother were begging for money from relatives. I suddenly wondered if my brother, who was good at studying, couldn't produce results at work. When I asked a relative about it, it seemed that my brother couldn't get a good job. Moreover, my proud brother failed at work without listening to his boss and quit the company because he couldn't bear the cold looks from his surroundings. After that, he worked as a part-time worker and earned about $700 per month. He couldn't tell my parents about it because of his pride, so he put the money I gave him into my parents' house as if he had earned it himself. Well, even if he did that, he would eventually be exposed, and it's all his own fault. I'm going to forget about my parents and brother and keep moving forward with my life. My current family is the employees who work for my company. I'll work hard today to protect their lives.
Thank you for watching until the end. If you like, please subscribe to my channel. Let's meet again in the next video. How was this story? Please also, subscribe to my channel. Well then, let's meet again in the next video.
To you who live overseas, American property is meaningless, isn't it? You have your grandparents' old shack, and that's enough for you.
After my mother passed away, I returned home for her funeral only to find out that my sister had already decided how to distribute the inheritance without consulting me. I was given the old house that my grandparents used to live in, with no say in the matter. When I went to see it, it was in such a state of disrepair that it was barely livable. Even if I wanted to dispose of it, it would cost a considerable amount of money. Still, I thought of it as my grandparents' house, which my mother cherished, so I started cleaning it up. And that's where I found something unbelievable. I'm a married woman in my 40s. My husband got a job overseas, so I went with him. My job is something I can do anywhere as long as there's an internet connection, so I didn't hesitate to go with him. I'm currently working as a freelancer. I have one sister who is also married and has a family. Her husband works in the suburbs, so they enjoyed living in the suburbs near his workplace. When both my sister and I got married, our parents were still alive, but our father passed away a few years ago. Our parents had a great relationship, and my mother was devastated by my father's death. Normally, my sister and I would have discussed what to do with our mother, but my sister took action on her own. My sister and I have never gotten along since we were children, and we've never cooperated on anything. My sister left her husband at home and came back to our parents' house. In effect, her husband became on a solo assignment. My sister started living with my mother in our parents' home. Although it might be normal for me, who cannot return to America, to offer financial support, we didn't even talk at my father's funeral. The decision to live together had already been made without my knowledge. My sister and I don't get along well, but that doesn't mean she and my mother are on bad terms. If they're doing well, I thought it was okay not to contact them. However, my mother became ill due to depression and died after a long battle with her illness. I hurried back to America to attend her funeral. I regret not seeing her again while she was still healthy. I regret not living with my mother when I returned to America. Even after the funeral, I couldn't escape from my sadness. Despite the fact that it was still early days since the funeral, my sister brought a lawyer and began discussing inheritance.
You live overseas, so you don't need an inheritance. I took care of our mother until the end, so you understand, don't you?
It seems that my sister already knows the amount of money that my mother left behind. Since she brought a lawyer, I didn't think she wanted to argue with me.
But if I take everything, it would be bad for our reputation. I'll give you the old house where our grandparents lived.
That's the house that was in for over 100 years. I remember my mother managing it after our grandparents passed away. However, my mother never told me about it directly. According to the lawyer, after my father died, my mother lost her motivation and didn't manage the house very well. Since I don't know the details of the situation, the lawyer said I could abandon it. Is she exaggerating the story to make me abandon it? I had my doubts, but no matter how terrible the situation was, if my mother had managed the house as long as she had the strength, I wanted to inherit it. I agreed to my sister's proposal. This was the only inheritance I received. In contrast, my sister inherited the family home, land, and all of my mother's savings. The house that I inherited was a place where I used to play a lot when I was a child, running around the natural surroundings and playing hide and seek. My sister hated our grandparents' house. She hated the old-fashioned, bug-infested countryside. Also, the house was dimly lit even during the day and had too many things, so she was scared and didn't want to approach it. For me, it was a place with only good memories, but for my sister, it was a place she didn't want to touch, so I thought she pushed it on me. That's because after my mother became unable to manage it, I expected it to be in a state of disrepair for quite some time, but I didn't think it would be this bad. First of all, the weeds around it are taller than me. They block my view, and even if I try to go inside, the branches and roots that have grown as they please block my way. The state of disrepair can be predicted to some extent without even checking the condition of the house. Still, I need to check it carefully. I thought I could do it by hand at first, whether it could be saved, repaired, or needed to be demolished because it was collapsing to the point of causing trouble to the neighbors, but I couldn't do anything at all. I can't imagine how much time and effort it would take if I did it alone. Anyway, I asked a contractor to remove the overgrown weeds and trees so that I could reach the house in the back. I received a call that the removal of the specified area was completed later. I went back to my grandparents' house again and was able to see the house itself. I realized that I had to demolish it because I couldn't say that the condition of the outer layer was good. The inside was worse than I expected from the outside. The floor was rotten, and there were holes in the ceiling. Rainwater seeped in from there and rotted the floor. There were also places where my weight made a loud creaking sound, and I judged that it would be difficult to carefully look around all the rooms. At a glance, it feels like the things inside the house are more organized than I remember from my childhood. My mother must have been gradually organizing things in the house until she got sick after inheriting it. Still, there are many pieces of furniture and small items left. I think it's okay to leave them as they are since I'm going to demolish and dispose of them, but I still want to clean up as much as possible before doing so. When I asked a contractor, they said it would take a few days at the earliest, and maybe a few weeks. Since the surrounding trees were in the way of bringing in heavy machinery, I decided to start by clearing them out. I will visit my grandparents' house as much as possible on sunny days while waiting for the demolition to take place in a few weeks. One day, while cleaning up around the kitchen, I found that many cooking utensils and dishes were left untouched, as if they were deemed necessary for daily life. Although there was no food left, There were a few unopened seasonings that had passed their expiration dates. I wondered if there was anything under the floorboards, so I opened the storage space. As expected, containers emerged. My grandmother used to make pickles and other things herself. Her homemade pickles were especially delicious, and there was a time when she would send them to me regularly even after I stopped visiting. I couldn't believe there were still pickles left, but I tried to lift the container to check, and it was quite heavy. Moreover, it was certain that something was inside. I opened the lid with fear and trembling, wondering if it was really something that had been pickled, and what came out were various gold items. There were also documents with them, and it turned out that they were things my grandparents had purchased with the money they obtained from selling land. Although I inherited my grandparents' house, is it okay to take the gold items that were inside the house? I didn't want to tell my sister because it would cause a commotion, so I decided to consult with my mother's sister, my aunt. According to my aunt, it is true that my grandparents sold part of the land that had been passed down from generation to generation during their time. The only land remaining is where my grandparents' house stands. My aunt is also ill and unable to organize the house, so she said she would leave everything to me since I inherited the house. As for the gold items, she said she would give them to me as a hassle and inconvenience fee if I took care of everything. Actually, it costs tens of thousands of dollars to demolish the old house. It doesn't work to say that I will pay from the money I get from selling the land, so I decided to accept my aunt's proposal. Since gold is currently in high demand, I will use the money I get from selling the gold items to pay for the demolition costs, removal of weeds around the house, and disposal of unwanted items inside the house. I got more money than I expected when I exchanged the gold items for cash. On the day of the demolition, I decided to watch until the end. For me, it was a memory of my grandparents from my childhood, and for my aunt, it was also the house where she was born and raised. My aunt, who was watching next to me, said quietly,
"I'm sorry, I left it like this until it became so dilapidated."
I told my aunt, "That's not true. I'm sure Grandpa, Grandma, and Mom would say thank you for seeing it through to the end," and she said it was good that her niece inherited it in the end. Just that made me feel relieved that I had accomplished what my mother had left undone. When everything was settled, I returned to my husband waiting overseas. The following year after my mother passed away, I returned temporarily with my husband for a family gathering. It was the first time I met my sister since the one-sided discussion about inheritance. After everything was done, my sister asked me,
"What happened to that old shack?"
I explained that I had no reason to hide it and that I had demolished it and sold the land. The land where my grandparents' house stood was quite spacious when it was cleared, and a buyer was found immediately. Then my sister's expression changed, and she said,
"I didn't hear that story."
She demanded that I give her half of the money if I sold it and turned it into cash.
"If I knew that such a dilapidated house could be turned into money, I wouldn't have let you inherit it,"
she said. It's true that a dilapidated house alone wouldn't be worth much. It's the result of investing the appropriate amount to turn it into a profitable piece of land. However, I didn't say that I had exchanged the gold items left by my grandparents for cash and used them to pay for the expenses. If I did, she would demand that I give her that portion as well. I firmly refused my sister's request. It was an unequal inheritance from the beginning. I don't think I have to share the money I earned from selling it successfully with my sister. If she wants half, she should give me half of what she inherited first. However, my sister, who apparently couldn't forgive me for expressing my opinion, began to say unjustly that I had obtained the money without permission in front of other relatives. When my aunt heard that, she protected me by saying that she was the one who asked to close the family home. She completely took my side and refuted my sister, who then lost her temper and pushed my aunt, saying,
Outsiders, stay out of this. Don't interfere in the sisters' conversation.
My aunt dodged and fell down. When I blamed my sister, saying, "What are you doing?" she shifted the blame to me, saying that I was the one who did something wrong. Furthermore, she suggested,
Let's talk about it between the sisters and our husbands. The fallen granny is in the way.
My husband and I faced my sister and her husband in another room. First, my husband explained how I had worked hard to close the family home. I stayed in the United States until the sale of the land was completed, leaving my husband, who couldn't return home for a long time due to work, behind. It was good that a buyer was found earlier than expected, but if not, there would have been additional hassle of returning home frequently. Although it is a job that can be done anywhere as long as there is an internet environment and a computer, it is not so easy to have my convenience prioritized all the time. There are also exchanges with my husband, who is in a different time zone, and to be honest, it was not easy. My husband also tells my sister that I invested an appropriate amount of money before demolishing the house. If she insists on half, he said it's only fair to split the expenses as well. I said that the story starts from there and that I don't intend to give her half of the sold land. After all, my sister has inherited more than the amount of money I got from selling the land. Furthermore, what does she mean by demanding more? I asked. From the beginning, my mother's inheritance was not divided equally. It is difficult to divide the land equally, but couldn't she have split the savings my mother left behind? I told them my true feelings that I couldn't say at that time. If there was any dissatisfaction with the amount of money, they could have consulted with me. Then my sister's husband asked,
How much did my wife inherit in the first place?
My husband and I were surprised and asked, What? It seems that my sister did not tell her husband the amount she inherited. Her husband was surprised to learn the amount and asked what she had done with such a large sum of money. Apparently, the amount has already disappeared, and he didn't even know it existed. I can't believe that such a large sum of money would disappear in a year or so. Of course, I don't know if she bought a house with it, but after my mother passed away, my sister returned to her husband's place. If my sister makes a big purchase like a house, her husband should already have asked where the money came from. At first, my sister tried to dodge the question or change the subject, but her seemingly gentle husband pounded the table and questioned her, so my sister, feeling fearful, confessed in a mosquito-like voice that she had used the money to pay off her debt. Furthermore, since there is still an outstanding balance, she seems to want the money I received from selling the land. What kind of debt is it that can't be repaid with that inheritance amount? If I listen carefully, it seems that she lost a lot of money in illegal gambling and the debt ballooned to the point where she could buy only one house. The unpaid debt is compounded daily with illegal interest, and she cries out for help because it's hopeless. First of all, my sister is a housewife and doesn't even work part-time. Her husband naturally asked her where she got the money from. It turned out that she had taken it out of their savings. He checked the balance in a hurry, but it was zero, and her husband was furious that it had been used without his knowledge. her husband grabbed and pushed my sister down. My sister resisted and scratched her husband with her nails. It developed into a small brawl and was subdued by relatives in another room. My aunt confronted my sister, saying,
"You've been taking things of value from your parents' home, haven't you? Your mother knew about it. And since there's no time left, she asked you to contact the other daughter, but you didn't do it."
She presented a letter written in my mother's handwriting. When I asked why such a thing was coming up now, my aunt said that she wanted to keep this to herself in her heart, hoping that everything would be settled and redone after my sister took all the money and cleared everything. However, she had the disgusting thought process of wanting to squeeze more money out of the inheritance and not rehabilitating. My aunt confessed to my sister, hoping that she would realize how terrible she had been. There were also ancestral heirlooms that my mother had cherished among the things my sister took out and exchanged for cash. Later, my sister was unilaterally divorced by her husband. He demanded that she agree to it, or he would claim the entire amount she had embezzled. However, immediately afterward, a document demanding compensation for damages arrived. The debt she incurred from the dangerous gambling she did was borrowed from a really dangerous place, and I heard that she is being chased no matter where she goes. My sister, who has never worked properly, started working part-time, but she can't repay the debt with such a job, and she is being threatened to do a dangerous and profitable job. If she does that, she will be convicted immediately. It's my sister's own fault that she can't handle money that is appropriate for her income. I returned to the United States when my husband's job moved to the United States. I bought a house with the money I got from selling the land on the way. We live happily as a couple in that house. My job is going well, and my aunt comes to check on me from time to time. Recently, her health has been good, and she's regaining my strength. I hope this happiness will continue forever.
How was this story? Please subscribe to the channel as well. See you in the next video.